Hello, Instagram. We are talking about 3 mistakes of love addiction or that love addicts make in relationships. We're going live on YouTube. Welcome, welcome. Let me know if you're catching this on a replay. If you're watching this on a replay, and feel free to share your questions there. And let me make sure we're working over here on YouTube. Okay, it says I'm live here on YouTube as well. Oh, it says my camera is blurry. Oh no. Let's wipe this off. I've been reconfiguring my office a little bit. You can see some of the dust in the background. Working on, I haven't had the painting up that I bought in a long time. But trying to finally get the frame I bought for it up. That's my old desk. That used to be right here, but now I got a standing desk. And you can see the walking pad. Oh, you can see the walking pad right there on YouTube and right there on Instagram because I'm trying to get my steps in and stuff. So, hey Leica, good to see you. But this is going to be a quick live because I have to go to my son's school to read books. I'm a secret reader today, so he doesn't know I'm coming. So that should be really fun and cute. But like I said, today we're talking about 3 mistakes that love addicts make in relationships or in dating. And so if this is your first time joining me, make sure that you share in the chat any questions that you have. I love answering questions as they may come up. And if you're watching this later, after I post it, you can also put questions in the chat and catch me next time. So I've already, last week, not this week, last week, podcast episode was about 3 mistakes that love addicts make in dating. So it is so important for us to know what to not do, just as important as it is to know what to do. Sometimes we can work through process of elimination. Sometimes we want to start at the mountaintop. We want to start with the ideal relationship, the ideal, the ideal sense of self-esteem. We want to start with the dream that we have and go straight there. But sometimes in order to get there, we have to chip away and peel off all the things that are not working. Think about the metaphor that we hear all the time about trees being planted or fruit being planted. Sometimes you have to prune off the things that are not working so that the things that are here to bloom, to flourish, it has room to grow. So don't ever think that because you're spending a lot of time or you feel like you're spending a lot of time focusing on the problems and the insecurities and the things that have not worked before, thinking that you're stuck. You may actually be pruning some things off. You may actually be clarifying what it is that you want by clearing out what you don't want so that you will have the space and the breath and the energy, right? Because having continual relationship issues, relationship problems is tiring. It's depleting. It's soul-sucking, right? Especially if you're someone who typically things work out for you. You know, you're successful maybe in your career and your friendships and other places of your life. If this is the one area of your life that seems like you just can't get it straight, it can feel very easy to be defeated. So I want to let you know that there's a different way to look at this. There's a way that's more empowering to look at it, because here's the truth. You're going to have to go through this process anyway. In order to get the life that you want, if you are someone who's been caught in a lot of ups and downs and roller coasters, right? If that's been what your story has looks like, you're going to have to go through a little bit of turmoil in clearing it out, right? In the same way that if you were to scrape, I'm going to keep giving y'all metaphors because I want y'all to get it. If you were to fall down, scrape your knee, break your leg, whatever, you still have to go through that process of healing. You got to clean the dirt out the wound. That sucks. Putting alcohol in the wound sucks, right? It doesn't feel good. Just putting a Band-Aid on top is not going to help it heal. It's going to make it be worse. Break your bone. They got to put that sucker back into place. They got to readjust it so that it can be in the setting that it needs, so that it can be stronger on the other side, right? So if this is what we're going to go through anyways in order to get the life and the relationships that we want, let's look at our mindset about it. Let's look at how we talk to ourselves about it, because some of us are our biggest ops. Some of us are very good at criticizing ourselves, at being kind of negative about maybe the time that has passed and the things that have happened, and maybe feeling again defeated about it at the end. And that mindset is what's going to keep you even more stuck, right? You can still make movement. I'm not going to say that if you have a negative mindset, you'll never be able to move forward, but it will take, it's so much harder because now you're carrying the weight of what it looks like to unravel the impact of trauma and negative relationships. And now you're carrying the weight, you're carrying this big weight of you feeling not good enough, of you feeling like you're a burden, you're a problem, or whatever those thoughts are. Okay? So, all that to say, that's why we're going to be talking about the mistakes to avoid, so that if you're doing these things, so that you don't do them in the future. Okay? So, if you're ready to hear our first one, if you're ready to hear our first mistake for you to avoid if you struggle with love addiction, and we'll do love avoidance on a different day. But if you struggle with love addiction, go ahead and put a 1 or a heart in the chat, a 1 or a heart in the chat. And before someone asks me, yes, you can be someone who struggles with both love addiction and love avoidance. They're two sides of the same coin. They're both intimacy disorders that are used to keep people on the outside, right? So used to create distance. Even love addiction doesn't really maybe sound like it's a distancing technique. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. For those of you who don't know what love addiction is a persistent obsession. Thank you for the heart. The persistent obsession of a person, a relationship, or the fantasy of who you want that person or relationship to be, and mistaking the fact that I feel so much for this person, I feel so much for this relationship, mistaking it for love. This must be it. That's why I can't let go of him. That's why I keep coming back. There's just something about our connection. There's just something about our history. Now, girl, you are probably in fantasy about this person and who they are and what they could be to you. And you're probably in fantasy because they have the same qualities, or maybe have the same energy. Like they may on paper have, completely different qualities as a parent or a caregiver from your past that neglected you or harmed you or disappointed you. So they look like the opposite, but the energy, what it provokes in you, this need to be closer to them, this need for them to be okay, to choose you that's very intense, right? So this is the cycle that we want to break, because it involves love addiction is not, I like to describe it. The reason why this platform, I talk about love addiction and love avoidance instead of insecure attachment styles, anxious attachment, avoidant attachment. Of course, how we use those words, but I say those terms because I need to communicate, because I've been there. I've helped women. For those of you who don't know, I'm a therapist by trade, a licensed therapist by trade for over 12 years, and a coach. And I've done my own healing process from love addiction as well. So I've both professionally helped hundreds of women in therapy, hundreds of people as a coach, and then my own process and breaking out of this cycle. And I can tell you right now, the level of loss of control I would have around people who did not deserve me, around ruminating thoughts, obsession, fantasy, the viral, the vicious, intense feeling of fear I would have when it came to letting people in and letting them see me and being seen. That was beyond let me just do a couple workbooks and let me talk it out in therapy. I would sabotage so many things in spite of knowing better, in spite of being a professional that would help people change their lives. I couldn't change mine until I had these words. And I was like, oh, wait, this does feel addictive. This does feel overwhelming. It does feel like no matter what I do, I can't get off this hamster wheel. I'll go a long period of time feeling like I'm doing okay. And then when I get in a certain relationship or a certain situation, the codependency and everything comes back with a force, right? And that feels like insanity. That feels like, what the fuck is going on, right? And so that's why I talk about love addiction and love avoidance. Not because it's like a cool catchy way, but that's what it feels like. And the women who've been a part of this community get that, right? Hey, love. Hey, Galactic. Thank you for being here. All right, so without too much teasing, the first mistake the love addicts make when it comes to dating and relationships is going off potential, which is a very obvious one for those of you who've been a part of this platform. You've heard me say this before. It's one of the first ones I go to because that's what this is. Love addiction is about being swept away in the romance and the fantasy of what could be. Sometimes it's very clear at the beginning that you are in fantasy about something or someone. Sometimes it is doctored up, and it's wrapped in this little package of you believe the best in people, or you really just don't care what's going on, so you're just going to see, But really what it is there's something that this person is giving you, or there's something that you think that they can give you, whether or not it's companionship, whether or not it's laughs, whether or not it's safety, whether or not it's friendship, right? So many of us, here's a story that's really common that I hear. One of the things that I teach my clients to be mindful of doing, there's good advice and there's good stories out there, and you hear it work out for other people, and then you try to do it for yourself, and then it doesn't work out. And what I try to do for a lot of love addicts and people who struggle with love avoidance is to be able to have a conscious pause when you hear other people's story and think, okay, would that work for me though? So one type of story that I hear often from people who are healthy, who meet their person, and it works out well, is they meet their person and they're on the phone for 5 hours. They meet their person, and again, this is a healthy relationship. They meet their person, and the date that was just supposed to be a coffee date for 30 minutes ends up being a 6-hour marathon date, right? And that's how they knew that this person was the one. Love addicts love that shit. we like I'm waiting for this person. Like I'm manifesting them. I'm sitting in the energy. I'm healing my trauma. I'm doing my solo dates. I got my hobbies going. Like I have built a life. I'm praying to the Lord. The Lord is all I need. Like I'm doing everything I can to build a life to where I'm ready and I'm full and I'm elevated. And so these stories, being someone who's already a hopeless romantic, someone's already a lover girl. I mean, man, you're telling me that this can happen, even though I've been having all this trash on the side. This can happen, and it does happen in today's day and age. Great. Here's the difference between someone who's a love addict who gets that experience and someone who may be healthy, more healthier and secure, who's connecting with someone else who's healthier and secure. The love addict in a room of 100 people will somehow find the person and have the magical connection with the person who's going to repeat the same trauma that's happened to them over and over again. There's going to be fireworks. There's going to be intense love. If this is a person or a coupleship that does sex before marriage, if that's part of their thing, that's going to be there. The sex is going to be hot. It's going to be good. You're going to, and in this 5-6 hour conversation, you're going to share so many things. A lot of times you're going to be sharing your child experiences, your traumas, your stories. You might even have a whole lot of things in common. And because you have those things in common, and because you are trauma bonding on the first date with this person who is not available, when we are not clear on the warning signs of who a person is, and when we as love addicts, we're very good at rushing. When we fall hard, right? We can be very feelings-based when we're in our love addiction. Also, you can be a love addict who also switches to love avoidance. So you run fast for some people, and other people, they got to jump through hoops to get to you, right? We will want to rush to that connection, right? Because it feels good. Connection in general, companionship in general feels good before the love addict who is needing, wanting, searching for, either consciously or not unconsciously, for that person, that relationship that will complete them, right? Once you have that connection, once you have that, like, that's kismet, right? That's God-given. Now you see all the signs, right? Now you have the storyline to tell your friends, like, yeah, if I never would have went there, then we never would have met. You got your story. You got your happy ending, right? Except you don't know this person. And love addicts, we have a hard time with our discernment. Even if we have great discernment in every other area of our life, for some reason when it comes to romantic relationships, we lose it. And we will go all in, balls to the wall, with a relationship. And sometimes, again, it starts with that saying, well, I'm just going to take my time. I'm not really going to put anything on it. Like, we're saying the words, but meanwhile, our brain is going. Our brain is attaching to the fantasy of who this person is. I need you to shadow me. Yeah, well, I can. I can. That's why I'm here. And in fact, I was going to wait until after I finish this point. No, I'll wait after. I'm having an open house for anyone who would like to work together. It's completely free. Next Wednesday night, I'm going over my coaching program. I'm teaching about intimacy disorders. So there's archetypes for love addiction, love avoidance, and love deprivation, which I don't talk about as much here, but I should. I give a lesson about all three of those intimacy disorders, again, completely free. And then I talk about how I use my coaching program to help women heal. And so you can register, you can join. I'll be there live like this. You can ask me questions about the lesson or about the program. Women who join at the open house and decide to enroll get a special gift as well for our next 6 months together. So you can find that link in the bio or go to blackgirlsheal.org/open house to join me. And it's a good time. We're there for about an hour and 15, depending on how long the Q&A goes. Yeah, it's a good time. And you don't have to be on camera. So come in your pajamas. It'll be chat only. I'll be the only one on camera. So no worries for that. But yeah, we have to not be in fantasy, y'all. And it's really, really hard. When I teach about the archetypes, when I talk about love addiction and love avoidance, and I'll talk about this more at the masterclass or at the open house as well, is when I was first coming up and learning how to break these cycles, I am a perfectionist. I have been a recovering perfectionist for so long. Very black and white thinking is what has worked well for me. And I've had to learn how to find balance. I've had to learn how to not throw the baby out with the bathwater. I remember I had one guy who I was dating when I was younger in my love addiction, and he hated the fact that I had a schedule. And so, that I had to pencil him in or whatever. So I threw away the schedule because I was in the extremes, absolute. And also I was so used to becoming needless and wantless for whatever man was in front of me to become whoever he wanted me to be, right? I had, those are the types of things that I had to work through, right? So I've had to learn how to find balance in between those things. So with me being a perfectionist and trying to find a way to be the right girl, the good girl, the right way to do this, I would villainize being caring and passionate. What I teach is that every single thing that we do has a positive aspect to it. It's not all bad. Someone who is codependent, that's like a bad word in the zeitgeist. That's a bad word in the world. Codependency is nothing but generosity. Codependency is someone who's empathic. Codependency is someone who is sensitive. Codependency is someone who is a giver. That is the glue of the family system. That's the glue of a friendship. At the core of codependency is a woman, a person, a man who is willing to put themselves out of themselves to see what someone else needs and is able to compromise from love, right? Those are good qualities to have. The problem is that, again, in that room of 100 people, we pick the predator. We pick the person who's going to leave us just like our daddy did. Maybe physically present in the room with us, but emotionally not there, right? That is what we're trying to break. Not that the love that we have to give, not even that being a hopeless romantic. If you've listened to my podcast at all, whenever I talk about the relationships that you want, I say, girl, if you are in a relationship where you are not adored, you're in the wrong place. Just period. If your partner has to consider what are some good things about you, you're in the wrong place. There's a difference between normal, healthy, graduated couple conflict, right? Whereas the day is if you look at me wrong, brother, this one's for you. Those days happen. They will happen when you're humans being in a relationship. But some of us are in relationships with people who just don't like us. And it's because we grew up in homes with parents and caregivers who treated us like they didn't like us either. That we were lucky, and we should be glad and grateful that we got food, school supplies and everything else. Be happy to be here. So then we get in relationships with people who treat us with that same type of energy. Right? So we have to shift what is our normal. And the problem is sometimes we don't know when we're so stuck in the dysfunction, right? Other people see what's going on and they're like, yikes, what's going on? In fact, I'm going to give you all a little preview because I really do have a time limit. I'm going to try to go live again this weekend, y'all. Because I have the open house coming up and I want y'all to attend. I want y'all to remember I'm here and I can help y'all outside of just the podcast in my coaching program. But a little preview. This Tuesday's podcast episode is going to be about 3 mistakes that love avoidance make in dating. And the one that I want to record next week, in case I change my mind, if I change my mind, I'll just do a live here, is I'm going to talk about 3 different types of partners that we may partner with, right? I'm going to talk about the golden retriever boyfriend, the Doberman partner boyfriend, and then the coyotes. Now, with the coyotes, I'll just say this. For those of you who don't know those archetypes, it's really like a big thing on TikTok for sure. I know it's creeped up into Instagram, but basically these are just describing partners that they don't play about you. They love you, they adore you, because as much as we're talking about the mistakes right now, and the mistakes on this week's podcast and next week's podcast, we got to talk about the green flags. What are the green flags we need to look for? However, the reason why I got golden retrievers, I got Dobermans, and I'm going to be talking about coyotes, is your sneak peek preview is, some of you may have seen this. I've seen videos where the joke is, people are like, hey, what kind of dog is this? It's so cute. Like, it's such a cute dog. What breed is this? And there are people in the comments like, girl, that's a coyote. If you don't get away from that, because a coyote looks fluffy. It's the same size as a dog. And it has the same ears as a dog. But a coyote will eat your pets. A coyote will eat your children. A coyote cannot be domesticated. A coyote can lay and play the game and be in wait and look around and see what it can do and see what it can get. And once it gets its opportunity to take and to kill and to ravage, it will. Some of us are with coyotes thinking that they're panda bears or whatever. You think you got a Yorkie, you got a full predator that you're partnered with, that you may have even had a child with, right? And so this isn't about shaming ourselves and being like, what could have been, what should have been, and like, how could I be so foolish? Like, I always have to help my clients stop shitting on yourself. You got to stop. You did the best you knew how to do with what was given to you. How are you supposed to know what love looked like when people weren't treating you like you deserved anything? You don't learn what love is by watching the Cosby Show. I'm sorry. I love the Cosby Show, by the way. I got all the DVDs. Like I had a childhood where thank God I grew up in a time period where sitcoms were the norm. And black sitcoms of black families who were healthy, and had humor and love and softness and tenderness and was still joking each other. Like that was, I remember being a young child and studying that and saying, okay, that's what I'm going to have when I grow up. That's what I want. And I still had to unlearn the impact of childhood emotional neglect, fear and lack, not having in-home representations of healthy love between a black man and a black woman. All that stuff still followed me into adulthood. Got a whole degree in marriage and family therapy, by the way, y'all. And I was a damn good therapist, y'all. But when it came to having that mirror for myself, I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it until I had the words in the terms of love addiction, a love avoidance, things like that, right? And then I was like, oh, this is real, right? And I had to reverse engineer my process of what I teach here, what I teach on the podcast, about like what's going on, which is why the community is, I think, as popular as it is, because when I first started teaching here in Black Girls Heal, of course there were things about trauma. I'm not going to say there was never anything about childhood trauma, but, over the last, I started this platform in 2017. I started teaching about love addiction, sex addiction in 2015, but I think I started Black Girls Heal in 2017. So over the last, 7 to 8 years, there's been so many platforms that talk about childhood trauma and attachment wounds and stuff. Like it's more readily available, right? Yet and still, when people hear me teach about love addiction, love avoidance, it's like, where has this been? This is me. I get messages and DMs. They've been binging the podcast, right? They have certain episodes that they listen to over and over and over again. Because there's a difference here. Okay? So, like I said, I do have to go. But I just knew I wanted to go live yesterday. And I wanted to go live the day before. And I was like, you only got 30 minutes. I'm like, Sheena, if you don't go live now, you're going to regret it. There are people out there who need the support, who need this help. So like I said, I'm going to try to go live over the next several days leading up to the open house. If you're joining me now, you missed the beginning. So sorry. I will be live again, I promise. What you can do is put in the chat what questions you have. If you rewatch this replay, put questions in the chat of what you would like me to talk about next. If there's anything that's been pending, right? And I'll let you know. But like I said, next Wednesday I'm having a free open house where I'm going to be talking about and teaching my archetypes of each 3 of the intimacy disorders. There are 4 archetypes of different types of love addicts. There's 3 archetypes of 3 types of love avoidance. And there's 3 archetypes of love, people who feel love deprived, to people who put themselves last, may struggle with some self-loathing and stuff like that. So I'm going to teach about that. And then I'm going to be talking about how my Love Addiction Recovery School can help you with that if you would like to join. And you get a special gift as well for joining me during open house night for our March cohort. So you can register for that by going to blackgirlsheal.org/open house or clicking the link in the bio. And that is it. And let me see, I just want to make sure there was not, y'all were talking and I was like, I gotta go. If you were married, you'd be mine. Aw. Well, I hope that I get to continue to support you in this journey and beyond. So, all right, I gotta go do mom duty.